9 years ago, I finally saw my abs for the first time, and it gave me the confidence to try natural bodybuilding. But after competing in 4 shows while working 50 to 60 hours a week, it negatively impacted my mental and physical health. So I quit that hobby, but after going from my old skinny fat body shape to maintaining 11 to 13% body fat year round, I learned many weird and unexpected things after getting and staying ripped that nobody told me about, which I'm going to share in this video. So body fat, in a weird way, is a bit like insulation. And I only really noticed this when I competed in bodybuilding in the Philippines in 2016. It was crazy hot and humid, but I still felt quite comfortable outside. And that's because I was at 6% body fat, the leanest I've ever been. It's not something that many people talk about, but it is common for guys who stay lean year round. Kind of like this next thing that I experienced. So when a man gets ripped, you would think that the compliments would come flooding in, right? Well, yes and no. While some people did notice, I also got more negative comments than I expected. You look too skinny. Are you sick or unwell? You've lost too much weight. You need to eat more food. Put some weight on, mate. Eat up. You got to put some fat on you. All the things I did not want to hear. And it's kind of funny how people were very quiet when I hated how my body looked for most of my life. But it's not just others who are quick to judge. Even when I got shredded, and most people would say, there's no fat left on you. And to a degree that was true. But I would still notice the tiny bits of body fat left on the lower belly, around my belly button, or the lower abdominals. It's almost like the more you change, the more you notice what else you can change. And your focus shifts to what remains and away from what you've already done. And it can get a little bit mentally unhealthy by getting like super fixated, which is why it was important for me to like settle on a target and stop trying to like constantly move the goalpost. And for me, that was 11 to 13% body fat. And it's also important to celebrate the wins when you do achieve a low body fat level, to celebrate that and spend some time getting comfortable there before trying to set more goals, get leaner, or slacking off and then regaining the weight. And going through this also taught me how getting too ripped can also impact others. I often hear guys say, my wife loves me the way I am, doesn't matter how I look. And that might be true, because my girlfriend doesn't really care if I gain a little bit more fat or if I lose some muscle. She's not going to care. But what she will care about is how I feel and how I act. For example, if I'm being grumpy or snappy, or I'm in just a low mental state because I haven't worked out for 3 or 4 days or done any exercise, she will care because she has to deal with how I'm being. And I'm just a better human when I'm working out at least 3 days a week. And also getting some daily walks in, like 15, 20 minutes in the morning, maybe a 5 to 10 in the afternoon at a minimum. This helps keep my mind balanced, helps me sleep better, and just things generally don't bother me as much. It's also part of the reason why I decided to quit bodybuilding, because when you're bodybuilding, most of the time you're so regimented, and during a competition time, quite miserable on many levels, from a hormone and energetic and just a mental state point of view. Can't really enjoy life around you because you're stuck in this tunnel of trying to be ripped and look like some super freak on a stage, and just feeling hungry 24/7. It can really bother you almost as much as this next thing that I learned. So the more my body shape changed, the more people would ask for advice and tips. But eventually it started to really bother me, because 99% of people who would ask for tips and advice or plans wouldn't implement any of it. So I could give them all the knowledge, but without action, it's worthless. But it's not just asking for tips and advice that I heard from others. Often people who didn't ask for advice would instead tell me stories about how 10, 20, 30 years ago, they used to be fit, lean, ripped, doing marathons, 20 chin-ups every morning, 1,000 push-ups every day, and whatever else they used to do. And that's all well and good, but it's these kind of stories I would hear from people who do not reflect today what they used to do. However, hearing these stories did have a positive impact on me, at least, because it made me like focus on not going down that path they went down and sticking to my own lane, not giving up, building sustainable habits so that I don't ever fall into a hole and then have to like dig myself back out of it in the future. These stories are harmless, but it was just a little bit frustrating giving advice to people who didn't use it and then hearing stories from people who aren't practicing anything that they used to do. It was almost as frustrating as trying to genuinely help people transform their body, because I genuinely want others to implement good advice and get results. I see the potential in them if they just stick to and follow the path. But it's tough when they don't believe in themselves, and as a result, the old habits just overrule their behavior and they just get stuck in this yo-yo pattern, potentially for decades. And this taught me a valuable lesson to always make sure that first, I'm okay with myself and my life before I try to start helping other people improve their life. But it's not all negative, because a lot of the positive comments came from the people that I wanted to hear it from, being other people who are already fit, strong, lean, ripped, live that healthy, active lifestyle by default. The people that I aspired to be like for a very long time, because they understand the journey, the discipline, the time and the consistency required, not just to get to that first goal, but to keep it that way for the rest of their lives. So when you have other role models who are complimenting you, for me, it was a huge boost of motivation and validation and like reassurance that I'm doing the right things and that I am worthy of the results that I have and that I deserve this body shape and the way that I look and feel. That's just my own experience. But this next thing that happened did feel a little bit weird, because after eating like a robot for 6 months to compete in my bodybuilding shows, to get in the most ripped, shredded shape I've ever been in, I thought that as soon as the show was over, that I'll just go out and eat all this junk food that I deprived myself from for what felt like an eternity. But something else happened instead. I did eat a bunch of junk food, but it didn't feel like the way it used to. It just wasn't satisfying. It was bloating my gut, kind of giving me headaches, irritating my digestive system. And to my surprise, it was a little bit weird, is that I craved eating just real food more, like bowls of rice, mashed potato, bread, lean meats, vegetables, just like real wholesome gourmet food is what I actually craved. And because of going through that process, I had to eat a lot of clean food. It actually made me enjoy real food much more than I ever did in my whole life. That doesn't mean I don't have any junk food or desserts or like sweet stuff. I definitely do, but in much smaller doses, because that's all I need. It's just the taste of it. I don't want to have like an entire tub of ice cream, like maybe 1 or 2 scoops and I'm good. So it was really that change in my palate that I did not expect. And it kind of plays this mental trick on you, because you think that when I go and eat pizza or ice cream or whatever the hell like I didn't eat for months, that it's gonna just taste amazing. And like, yeah, sure, it tastes good, but it just doesn't hit the same. And then you go eat like a bowl of fried rice and man, it's just like that hits the soul or something. I don't know how to describe it, but if you've been super ripped, maybe you can relate. But my point is, since then, it's been great, because like I'm happy to eat super basic food, and it's very satisfying and filling and energizing without having to add a bunch of crap to it or like craving extra, processed made up foods that I don't actually need. And this next thing I learned was actually quite a big mental relief. Once I learned the importance of body fat percentages and lean muscle percentages and how that actually looks in my own shape, then the body weight scale just became like this indicator on how my body was reacting to things that I was eating or hydration or a poor sleep, stress, whatever. And overall, just the direction I was heading, like if I was gaining more body fat progressively over a number of weeks or months, but no longer stressing about it day to day. So I stopped caring about the scale and just focused more on leanness and how I look and feel in the mirror. And ultimately, I just realized how uncommon being lean actually is. And that's because it just became difficult to find clothing that fit right, like shirts that would comfortably fit the chest and shoulders without being like super like baggy around the waist or too long, or pants that fit the waist without being too tight around calves and quads and that. It's just the sizing is not generally made for people who are quite lean. It just means that finding the perfect fit can just take a little bit more, testing and finding different brands that do cater for like slim fit and muscle fit style clothing. And for me, this was really important, because once I got ripped, I didn't want to go back to wearing my old baggy, large clothes that I had. So I got rid of them, changed my whole wardrobe all to slim fit and muscle fit clothing. And that way, if my body shape changes, I notice it like straight away. I can see if I am putting on more weight or getting a little bit more higher up the body fat percentages. It's all on show. And that really helped, because it felt like, I was like just burning the bridges. I can't go back there. That's the old me. That's history. Done. But I also realized that a lot of men do struggle to not only get lean, but stay lean because of this next thing. Now, far too often men tell me, like I'm a foodie and that's why I eat poorly most of the time. And I get it, because I'm Italian and I love food, and I grew up in hospitality and surrounded by chefs. So like, who isn't a foodie? We all eat every day. We all love food. And I thought that eating similar foods every single day would get super boring and impossible to do. However, today I actually prefer it, because it's just easy. Saves me time, saves my headspace, and it keeps my body predictably energized and fueled every single day. So what I mean is like systemizing most of my meals that I eat saves a bunch of time and has kept me ripped. Plus the bonus is occasionally when I do go out and eat different foods or cook up something different at home, I enjoy it way more because I'm not trying to eat this like gourmet style Gordon Ramsay dishes every single day at home. And similar to like systemizing my meals, there are more things that I systemized that made a big difference. And that's because I feel noticeably less energetic, weaker, stiffer, and just flat if I stop working out for more than 3 days. I thought that I would like to have the odd break off training, be it 1 or 2 weeks or whatever, but I always want to get back into training sooner than later. And even the workouts that I don't feel like doing most of the time, they often end up being the ones that are the best, where I hit personal records and just come out of it feeling much better than I did when I went into it. Eventually, it just becomes easier to keep training than it does to just like quit and give up on it. So I learned that it really helped to systemize these training sessions, write everything down, track it, and just walk in, and then you know exactly what you need to do. You don't have to think about it. You're just following a system that you've built that has predictably gotten you results at the least 3 days a week. But as a result of training consistently and being ripped, there are other physical changes that I did not expect. This wasn't something that I thought about until it happened, with far less fat all over my body. Basically, there's just less cushioning. So like sitting on hard chairs, I could feel like the bottom of my pelvic bones like pressing into the chair or the wood or whatever it is we're sitting on. And sometimes like people would give a hug and then realize like how slim like your waist is and be like, oh, like where are you? They wouldn't realize that you to have such a tight waist. And someone even said that my back felt lumpy because of the like muscle definition from losing a bunch of fat on my back. But sometimes the physical changes aren't always as noticeable. For example, after getting lean for like 6 months or longer, I forgot about how I used to look and feel. So like looking back at old photos feels weird, almost like it was a bad dream. Like how the hell did I ever look like that and feel normal? So it's interesting like how fast our own self-perception can change as our body shape changes as well, especially when we embrace a new lifestyle and then embrace the identity that basically makes that lifestyle automatic. But I did notice that a change in my identity also came with its own side effects. Because there were times where I realized I was eating certain foods just because others were eating those foods. And in a weird way, I think that changing myself so much may have made other people uncomfortable with their lack of progress or lack of change. Not everyone. I mean, some were inspired by it and motivated to go and, do what they need to do. But, like being very specific with foods, portion sizes, ingredients, I found that can make others feel awkward or frustrated because like they don't care or they're not willing to, maybe make the small sacrifices that I did. I mean, not that I care. I'll happily deal with any level of awkwardness to stay ripped, healthy, and fit for the rest of my life. And many of these things I've talked about may sound a bit negative, but that's not the most accurate perception either. Because getting ripped was one of the best things I ever did for myself and for my life. Not just from a physical and like health point of view, but for discipline, mental toughness, and commitment. Like setting a goal and saying, this is what I want, and I'm just gonna keep going until it happens. And look, it's amazing waking up every day, seeing a body that makes me happy, that I feel good in, happy to look at, knowing that I did this, nobody did it for me, I didn't buy it, and no one can take this away from me. And in general, people I feel just trust and respect me more just at face value because they can see that I must be disciplined to look this way. Like the picture, the body image tells its own story. So with all that said, if you can relate to any of those points, let me know in a comment. But if you're not yet at your ripped body shape that you want to be at, or don't have a proven process to follow, or don't even know where to start with it, I can give you the step-by-step routine that gets my busy clients ripped, same routine that's kept me ripped for over 9 years. And it's all laid out in my Business Body Blueprint routine. To learn more, tap the link in the description below this video. And thank you for watching.